Welcome to another episode of the Reality Check, where we break down political claims, analyze policies, and separate fact from fiction. I'm your host, J. Andre Faust, and today we're diving into Donald Trump's latest claims. His assertions that the United States spends up to $200 billion a year to protect Canada. Is this true? Let's analyze it. Donald Trump has been in the headlines almost daily since his inauguration, often making bold and at times exotic claims. One of his most recent assertions is that the United States spends $200 billion annually to defend Canada. However, this figure is both inaccurate and misleading. Let's break it down. Trump has a history of exaggerating numbers, particularly concerning trade deficits. At times he has claimed that the U.S. has a $200 billion trade deficit with Canada, despite evidence showing the U.S. often runs a trade surplus. When it comes to defense, the U.S. defense budget is approximately $916 billion per year, covering global military operation. The key word here is global military operation, not just the defense of Canada. The amount allocated specifically to continental defense, including NORAD, North American Aerospace Defense Command, is only a fraction of this total. NORAD, established in 1958, is a binational military command where both Canada and United States share responsibilities and costs for aerospace defense of North America. This partnership ensures mutual protection rather than one-sided financial support. Canada's defense contributions include a $40 billion investment over 20 years to modernize NORAD, the purchase of 88 F-35 fighter jets to enhance its air defense capabilities. NATO's commitments. While NATO recommends members spend 2% of GDP on defense, Canada spends around 1.37%, below the target, but not a requirement. Plans to increase spending to 1.7% of GDP by 2030. Trump's claims ignores the fact that Canada actively invests in its own military and defense partnerships. To further assess Trump's claims, let's look at the U.S. military aid to Israel and Ukraine. Neither country directly pays the U.S. for military support, despite Trump's implication about NATO members not paying their fair share. Israel. The U.S. provides $3.8 billion annually through the Foreign Military Financing, otherwise known as the FMF program, a part of a 10-year agreement between 2016 and 2026. Unlike other countries, Israel can use some of this funding to develop its own military industry. The Ukraine. Since Russia's 22 invasion, the United States have provided over $10 billion in military aid, including weapons, ammunition, and training. This aid is approved by Congress and is not part of the pre-planned funding agreement. This highlights a key distinction. NATO members invest in their own defense, while Israel and Ukraine receive U.S. military funding without direct financial reimbursement. Does the U.S. provide military protection for Canada beyond NORAD? Let's examine the facts. Joint Air Defense, NORAD. Canada and the United States monitor and defend North American airspace together. Canada contributes military personnel, operates radar stations in the Arctic, and shares intelligence. Military training exercises. Camp Gagetown, New Brunswick, a major training ground for Canadian and Allied forces, where U.S. troops train for cold weather and urban warfare. Arctic training. The Canadian Armed Forces train U.S. troops in Arctic survival due to Canada's extreme climate expertise. Joint naval operations. The U.S. and Canada cooperate on naval missions in the Atlantic and Pacific. Importantly, The U.S. does not have permanent military bases in Canada. The relationship is cooperative, not dependent. Trump's narrative suggests Canada is reliant on U.S. military support, but the reality is quite different. The U.S. benefits from NORAD by using Canadian airspace and radar stations to monitor threats from Russia and China. The U.S. would defend Canada regardless of NORAD due to strategic importance. Canada maintains a strong defense at a fraction of the cost, thanks to shared responsibilities. Canada's global reputation is a peacekeeping nation, contrasts with the United States' more aggressive military stance. So, does Canada rely on the U.S. for defense in the way Trump suggests? The answer is a resounding no. Canada funds its own military and shares responsibility through NORAD. The U.S. benefits such as much, if not more, from the agreement. Trump's claim of $200 billion spent on Canadian defense is completely unsupported by facts. And with that, we wrap up today's episode of the Reality Checks. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, this is J. Andre Faust. Take care.